I'd like to call to order the December 8th, 2025 Planning and Zoning meeting. Commissioner Evans, would you call the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Yes, sir. Please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Clerk, could you provide the roll call, please?
Vice Chair Huot.
Here.
Commissioner Grassi.
Here.
Commissioner Colosimo.
Here.
Commissioner Evans.
Here.
Chair Erb.
Here.
Commissioner King is absent tonight.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Commissioner Griffiths.
Here.
Thank you.
We didn't mean to miss you. Good evening, everybody. My name is Ted Erb. I'm the chairperson for the Planning and Zoning Commission, and I'll be presiding over the Commission's deliberation and hearings this evening. The Planning and Zoning Commission sits in an advisory capacity to the Town Council. As such, the Commission reviews planning and zoning issues and forwards recommendations regarding these important issues to Town Council. All members are appointed by Town Council and volunteer their time. If you wish to speak during the comment period regarding a hearing item, or you wish to speak during the call to the public on any matter, you must pre-register your name with the clerk in order to speak. When you're recognized by the clerk, please come to the microphone in the center of the room here this evening. For anyone that needs ADA or wheelchair or assistance, please come to the microphone to the front here down the side ramps. When you're recognized by the clerk, please come to the microphone and state your name and address for the record. I ask that you direct your pertinent comments to the Commission through the chairperson and not to staff or individuals within the audience. A 3-minute time period will be imposed. Due to the fact that we are in a different location today, we will not have the time clock available for people. So what you will hear at a 30-second mark is a bell. At the end of your 3 minutes, you'll hear a bell twice. I ask that we abide by the 3-minute rule and that you finish up your sentence and comment and then be seated and to allow for additional comments from other folks in the audience this evening. Regarding the public hearing items on the agenda this evening, proceedings will be as follows. First, I will read the public hearing item into the record. Second, staff will then present the agenda item. Third, the Commission will have the opportunity to ask questions of staff. The applicant will also be invited to address the Commission and answer any questions of the Commission. The floor will then be open for comment by the public regarding the hearing item. After all pre-registered commenters have spoken, the chair will close the item. After such time, the item will then be voted upon. After public comment is closed, the hearing item will return to the applicant for any clarification or comment, and then the Commission will comment and have further discussion if needed. During the call to the public, at this time, members of the public will be allowed to address the Planning and Zoning Commission at any issue within the jurisdiction of the Commission. The Commission respectfully asks that the individual who wishes to speak on a public hearing item listed in the agenda that they please hold those comments for the hearing item. Pursuant to Arizona open meeting law, at the conclusion of the call to the public, individual members of the Commission may respond to criticism made by those who address the Commission and may ask staff to review the matter or place this matter on a further agenda for the future. However, members of the Commission shall not discuss or take legal action on any matter raised during the open call to the public unless the matters are properly noted in the agenda for discussion or legal action. So right now I would like to open call to the public. Is there, clerk, anyone that was registered to speak this evening on any matter?
We did not have any registered.
Is there anyone who didn't register that would like to speak this evening on an open?
I
call?
registered twice.
All right, ma'am, can you state your name and
I'm
your
Sandy-
address?
I'm Sandy Graham. I live in Viewpoint North. I'm representing Prescott Valley Citizens Alliance Board of Directors as their chairperson. I would like to correct numerous non-factual statements made about PVCA in the P&Z meeting on November 10th, 25. PVCA did write a letter to Joe Colosimo asking for him to recuse himself. We made no threat of legal action against Joe in this letter, as Joe, David Lennar, and Chris Russo falsely stated. David Lennar made additional non-factual statements. PVCA is leading the charge against government tank. We are opposed to industrial zoning near homes, but not leading the charge. PVCA is funded by some entity who has no interest in the betterment of Prescott Valley. Our organization is sustained by donations from our supporters as reported on required financial reports. No Growth Group, who has already shut down the Amazon expansion. We took no official stance on the Project Links rezoning being called Amazon. We were not the PAC who applied for or circulated the referendum petition, and we have never applied or circulated a referendum petition in PV. Prescott Valley Citizens Alliance is driving the community that's being divided. We have not held public meetings to drive any division. Do you want these type of people running Prescott Valley? Well, Prescott Valley is an incorporated town run with a 7-member town council. Chris Russo also made the following non-factual statements. PVCA showed an indifference to Joe and residents of Victorian Estates in a post on social media. No posts about residents were ever made on PVCA social media accounts. PVCA stated that Joe isn't qualified to be on this commission. Joe himself stated on his application that he has had no job experience in general city or town planning, zoning, or construction. PVCA does not live in the affected areas. People do not need to live in an affected area to care about the well-being of Prescott Valley and the surrounding areas. They just need to have concern and care about their community. David Lennar and Chris Russo both stated that most of all the PVCA members are not residents of PV, and David continued this statement by adding, but Dewey residents. The majority of the PVCA board are residents of Prescott Valley. None of our board members are residents of Dewey or Dewey-Humboldt. If anyone would like to know why PVCA was founded and continue to work for the betterment of Prescott Valley, they are able to find this information on our website, pvcitizensalliance.org.
Thank you, Mrs. Graham.
At the end, okay, I will do that.
Do you have any additional folks that would like to speak?
Since I was mentioned a few times, I thought I'd like to stand up and talk to. My name is David Larner, not Lennar. So just let's get that straight, okay? Thank you for allowing me to talk. I actually did sign up too, and I don't know why. I signed up about an hour and a half ago.
Mr. Lennar, can you give us your address too, where you're located?
7444 East Weaver Way, Prescott Valley.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I just want to make a couple comments about the government tank. The PVCA group is already out in the community spreading the same lies and fear-mongering that they created previously. They're trying to get people to believe that if they shut down government tank, they can also shut down the Fane Park gravel pit by asserting they are no mines next to neighborhoods. This is a lie. The Fane Park gravel pit is already approved by the state of Arizona, so they can't shut it down. I implore all residents of Prescott Valley to not blindly sign the petition without understanding the facts.
question everything they say, ask for provable facts, I guarantee they won't be able to. With that, I humbly request the P&Z Committee to recommend approval for the government tank location to the Prescott Valley Town Council.
Thank you, sir. Do we have anybody else who would like to speak on open comment?
I'm not registered, but I would like to speak.
Sure, sir. Step up to the microphone.
My name is Michael Poland. I live in Stone Ridge at 1654 North Dimble Lane. I have concerns about the project you are dealing with. One is our community center has an old black canyon. It's a dirt road that during the summer the winds blow and the little sand and dirt and every rocks and gravel go 30 feet in the air. Okay? And the wind blows that into the community center. That's one. And then about, 2-3 years ago, they built out phase 7 and 8 over in the other side of the ridge where I live from in phase 4. It's funny that we were there for like 4 years. We didn't have a rattlesnake. All of a sudden they started blasting. The rattlesnakes came over. I had 4 green Mojaves in the front yard, and during the course of that blasting period, I'd had 2 or 3 more in the backyard. So then, about a month later, I didn't know that we had like 20 or 30 tarantulas that decided to come over and visit us. Okay? So this is my concern about what are we doing with the wildlife? The other question I have is, one of the things that the council has done, that I had neighbors feeding animals a few years back. I called Town of Prescott. I called Animal Fish and Game. I called the Homeowners Association. Nothing could be done. And then all of a sudden now I see that we have a $300 fine for feeding animals. It's only common sense. So my concern now here on this thing is, you can give them a right-of-way for that whole road, but you keep that residential thing, because I'm concerned that once you open that floodgate, they're going to move up all the way up that thing and affect all the residences. They could build 1,500, 2,000 homes out there. That's where it was zoned for originally. People bought. Are fans going to pay us 2 times what we paid for the property, or the market value really what it is now? That's all I have to say. It's up to you people to make the right decision for the betterment of the community, not for corporations that I am not against, because they do have to make profits and they do create jobs, but they don't need to be in the middle of communities. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Yes, ma'am. Feel free to come on up.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to make a comment, please, to the audience. It's extremely important tonight that we remain respectful and please maintain decorum. I understand this is a very emotional subject this evening. I ask that we all please maintain our professionalism. Thank you very much.
Good evening, members of the Planning and Zoning Commission. My name is Bear Shimon. I live at 7699 East Bravo Lane. I have been in Prescott Valley over 20 years. I have lived in Stone Ridge for almost 18 years. There is no difficulty for me associated with Government Tank. It is the logical site. It is the investigated site. It is reasonable for homeowners and the people who actually own the property. We live, as you know, in the United States of America. We protect one another, we work for one another, but there must be prosperity, there must be progress. When I moved here, people may find this hard to believe, Kmart was the big deal. That was retail. We will evolve, we will grow, or we will suffocate. I ask you, and I know you have seen all the research, all the proof that this is not a danger to us. I ask with respect that this matter go forward and that Government Tank be the chosen site. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Max Hathaway. I live at 10711 East High Point Drive in Prescott Valley. I don't believe they were clapping for me. Perhaps they were. Okay, the 15-year moratorium clause in the development agreement suggests that the Fain family has not ruled out seeking to expand the industrial zoning beyond the 40-acre parcel. Such an expansion, whether it's mining or some other industrial use, would further chew away at the Village Pad A1 concept that's embodied in the General Plan 2035. It would also bring industrial and possibly mining uses, as this gentleman mentioned, closer to existing homes and closer to what are meant to be future homes. In short, it would essentially unravel the reasoning for the Government Tank site in the first place. Common sense and the history of development in Prescott Valley suggests you seriously consider this potential impact on PV's or Prescott Valley's future development options. I urge you to recommend expanding the hard rock mining onto the parcels west of Fain Park. This will keep Prescott Valley in alignment with the development goals and values embodied in the General Plan 2035. A majority of Prescott Valley voters not all that long ago ratified that plan. It was a clear consequence of the plan that that mining would occur on the parcels west of Fain Park. Now, the power to change that key component of the general plan will rest in the hands of 5 members of the town council. Please recommend that they stay their hand. There is, of course, a legitimate concern about the impact of expanded operations on Fain Park. For sure, some of the portions of the informal trails will eventually be gone. That is not something to celebrate. However, missing from the package of applications and agreements at issue here is a resolution to be voted on by the town council that would lay out a plan with reasonable timetable and specific goals to accomplish an improvement in integration at Fain Park. That absence carries a voice that needs to be heard and considered. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else who would like to speak in the open comment this evening? All right, we'll move to close the open comment period. Moving on to the next agenda item, announcements. Are there any announcements from the commission? I take it back. I'd like to step back one. Commissioner Colosimo would like to make a statement.
Good evening. I am recused from this agenda item. I was recused in the last meeting, as you know, which means that if I was recused from the last meeting, then obviously, Ms. Graham, I did not speak there, as you so said, as you so lied, I should say. Okay, I did not speak at the last P&Z meeting because I was recused.
Let's have you recuse yourself. And
I am recused. I am speaking as a citizen right now.
Well,
oh, yes, I am.
We would need to have you at the audience side.
Oh, okay.
Would you like me to
client,
please?
Okay,
Yes.
absolutely. Sorry about that.
Mr. Mayor and Council, Mr. Mayor and Council, my guess is that he's not recused yet because we haven't started those two items. And so he's simply responding to the open meeting, and he can do that sitting at his chair.
That's fine, I can stand here.
Okay.
So I was recused at the last meeting, and therefore I did not speak as she said. Okay? That's number one. Number two, my name has been splashed all over next door from these people, and over again for months before I was a commissioner on this commission. On top of that, many of the people here that are in support of this effort have been blocked from next door, from these people, from having a First Amendment right to speak. So I'm going to go ahead and stop right now because I don't want this to be about me. I want this to be about this, but I want the truth out too. Do not trust anything these people say.
Let's try and have some decorum, the folks, this evening, please. Well, he's speaking as a citizen just like you are. So let's move on to number 5, announcements. Are there any announcements from the commission this evening?
No, Chair.
Commissioner Evans?
No, nothing, sir.
Anyone else? Okay. Can I get a motion to approve minutes from the November 5th, 2025 special session and the November 10th, 2025 regular meeting?
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the November 5th, 2025 special study session meeting minutes, planning and zoning.
Do I have a second? I have a second.
Aye.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Do I have a motion for the November 10th?
Mr. Chair, I'll
Yes,
make a
ma'am.
motion to approve the November 10th, 2025 regular meeting minutes of planning and zoning.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, now we move to the public hearing items. Joe, I'd like you to.
Use the microphone.
Mr. Chair, I am recusing myself at this time.
Thank you. Chair recognizes that Commissioner will be recusing himself for the public hearing items GPA 25001 government tank and ZMC 25008 government tank. So we're going to open the public hearing. Mr. Norlock, you're presenting this evening?
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, Commission. Like you said, this is for the GPA 25-001 and the zone map change 25-008. They are separate actions, but I'll just do one presentation for the both of them. The request before you is a major general plan amendment with a zone map change with it. It's approximately 38.95 acres on parcel number 402.14.004. This again is the timeline that we had set forth before you. And right now we are at that second planning and zoning meeting at a different location, obviously. The general plan amendment is currently a village pad A1, and the applicant is requesting to change it to industrial. The current zoning of the property is RL70, which is residential single family limited, 70,000 square foot minimum lots. The zone map change request is to go to IG industrial general with a conditional use permit that would be part of the conditions, and that actually is in 1313.110. This is the site plan that we were given as a conceptual site plan which would be the preliminary development plan. This is the site plan, and they would have phased harvesting, and they would have a crossing at Old Black Canyon. And if you have any questions for me, once again, just a short presentation today, and I'll give it over to the applicant, and they'll have a presentation for you as well.
Any questions for Mr. Norlock from the commission?
No, Chair.
No. We'd like to call the applicant up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. For the record, Bill Lally with Tiffany and Bosco, representing the applicant tonight. I'm going to probably follow Mr. Morlock's pace and just do one presentation. There are two separate items. They are fairly related, so probably be best just to talk through both items. We talked a lot about the last time we were here a few weeks ago about the details, but I want to start tonight and talk a little bit about the story as to why we're here. And I think it's important to understand that, yes, we're here to debate a general plan amendment and a zoning case and a conditional use permit as to the use on a particular property. But I think it's also important to understand why we're here and how we got here. It started 4 years ago. 4 years ago, the town denied a hauling permit or a right-of-way permit across a small portion of the existing park. Let me go ahead and just show a slide here. I know you guys have seen this, but I think it's worth kind of talking about the history. You know, in the early 90s, mid-90s, the orange area, which is called Fane Park today, was dedicated to the town by the family. 96 acres, had some very sensitive items on it that were worth preserving in a municipal park. To the right, or to the east of it, was the existing mining operation that had been there from the early 80s. That operation was always contemplated to then move onto the west side of the park on approximately 90 acres. In early 2001, as the hard rock started to run out on the main site, the operator and the applicant landowner applied for a right-of-way permit. That right-of-way permit to cross Fane Park on the very south portion of it with a haul road to stay off of the primary roads was approved. It took about a year or so, and then the applicant didn't act on the permit, didn't build the haul road. They came in a year later in 2022 and tried to renew the right-of-way permit. At that time, the town said, no, we're not going to renew your permit. We're not going to allow you to connect the two sites with this haul road that's going to cross our property. We would, in fact, prefer that you go find a replacement site. Now, at the time, the Fanes had the opportunity and the option to go out onto public roads. There's a public road that bisects the property, and they could have actually taken the trucks onto public roads and done the mining and extraction there on West Fane Park property, and then took the trucks around to the east. But they decided to work with the town and honor the commitment to try to be good neighbors. And I think that that's been lost in this entire story, the idea of trying to be a good neighbor. The applicants have a vested right today, and a legal right, to extract rock on the 96 acres that is west of Fane Park today. It is in the county. It's an unincorporated county, and it has a state permit to do so. So today, the town couldn't approve or deny any sort of mining operations. They could deny the ability to connect the two sites through a road across the park, but they can't stop the actual extraction. So in 2023, our client and the operator decided to honor sort of the commitment to be a good neighbor, went out onto the property to try to find a replacement site. And the town said, hey, we understand that it's got to be nearby because there's a cost to hauling. When you extract the rock, you put it in the truck and you drive it to the existing processing site. If you're 10, 20 miles away, like in Chino, you're going to spend millions more in hauling cost to do that. And that millions more is then continued on to and added to the price when they go to sell the product to the governments, to the town, to developers. So all the prices go up. because of the extra hauling costs. So the primary purpose here in trying to find a replacement site was to stay in the vicinity, stay on Fane-owned land, stay off the public roads as much as possible, and find the same type of rock. So they inspected and went out and toured all of the properties that you sort of see in the light gray there to find a suitable site. The government tank site was identified as a site. It's 40 acres. It's not 96 acres. It's not going to replace the site that they're potentially abandoning for this, but it will be a suitable replacement for the time being. When they went through the process, what they looked at as well is this new site compatible? Because we've got to go through a general plan and a zoning case, and one of the biggest questions is it compatible? So we had to look at existing roads and neighborhoods within Prescott Valley to try to better understand, are we bettering the situation with this particular new site? Are we staying within the parameters of a cost-effective hauling mechanism? Are we staying in an area where our roads could have very limited crossing of public roads? So if you look at this map, this is a map that identifies where Stone Ridge is. It shows you the acre or the feet away from existing homes, Old Black Canyon Freeway. And then it has obviously a distance to the south. Now that 1954, I think, was feet away to the south was articulated last time we were here with basically that's to a property line. It's actually about 24 to 2,500 feet to the south to an actual structure. So as we went through the process, we had to then, and this is sort of that map that shows government tank looking south across the state land to existing structures. And it shows you're about 2,400 feet away. The one at 2,300 feet are actually, I think, a couple trailers from the look of the aerials. I don't know, I haven't been on the property, but the aerials make it look like it's more trailerish and not permanent homes. But as we went through the process, we had to then compare that to where we're going or where we can go. And so this is the site where today AP&S and Fane could go harvest rock. This is on the west side of the park. It's within 1,200 feet from an existing platted subdivision and 600 feet from a future phase within Stone Ridge. So when you compare that to this site, which is the closest away, you're really half or at least half, if not more, closer to Stone Ridge than you are other sites. So again, the town came to us and said, we prefer that you guys go out and find a suitable location. We had to find a suitable location where the actual hard rock was, where the hauling could happen, where the hauling would be cost effective, and where it would have minimal impact on property owners and existing structures. And so that's where government tank was found. In 2023, we filed for a general plan amendment and a zoning case for that. In 2023, the community appealed to the town and said, hey, we have collected signatures pursuant to your general plan amendment to trigger this from a minor to a major amendment. That's pretty unique. I think I mentioned it last time. There's no other general plan in the entire state that allows for a citizen-driven trigger from a minor to a major. What that really did was change the process in the middle of the process. And so we sort of had to put our process on hold, not bring the hearing for you in front of you while that kind of went through the process. And that went through a court process, and the courts basically said, yes, if they had the valid signatures, this has to be a major. In 2024, that process went through. At the end of 2024, our case had become stale. Our general plan case had become stale. In 2025, the town came to us again and said, okay, so we're assuming you're probably going to go back to Fane Park for extraction, rock extraction. We would like you to take one more trip with us. Let's see if we can do this again. Let's file for a new application. Let's go ahead and file proactively for a major general plan amendment. Let's file for the zoning case. And let's move forward and see if we can do a little bit more outreach. Now, at the time, we had done site tours. We brought lots of folks out to the government tank site, multiple neighborhood meetings, and even did a drone video that's been on the Fane website for the last few years that shows exactly the impact on the surrounding areas. The government tank site is actually down in a valley. So at the highest peak of extracted materials that are piled up, at 50 feet or 75 feet, you will never see a single house at the top of those piles. That drone footage and that video that's been on in the public for the last 2 to 3 years shows you exactly that condition. And so they did a lot of outreach at the time. Fast forward to today, in 2025, we said, okay, we're going to have to do the exact same thing. We're going to have to do a robust outreach. So we, again, started with, let me go back here, started with an outreach, did a lot of neighborhood meetings. The general plan amendment requires at least 2 neighborhood meetings, as it does require 2 planning commission hearings. And so we did 2 outreach meetings and an online meeting. And I think I mentioned to you last time we had anywhere between 50 to 100 people at each meeting. We used a technology that allowed over 75 to 100 questions to be asked and answered at every single meeting. So it was a very, very thorough outreach, probably the most efficient neighborhood meeting type setting that I've ever seen. And that led us to sort of where we are today. We had a planning commission hearing a few weeks ago. We went through a lot of these details already. There were some questions that were asked at that planning commission hearing. Happy to go through some of that tonight and then jump into, if I can get this to stay, but let me try that one more time. Well, one of the questions that I think was asked, and so what I would like to do just for a minute is go through some of the questions that you asked us, go through some of the issues that were raised at the neighborhood meeting, and then drill down on the development agreement, because we didn't have a final development agreement this time 2 weeks ago. And so we do now. It's on the public record. It's on the town's website. You can click on it and read it. And so at the time, there was a commissioner on this panel that asked us about a particular bill that was out there that potentially, in her thought process, would maybe allow for a large buffering, which potentially we wouldn't meet. I had to go back and research. Honestly, I had no idea what that new bill was. It was passed in 2024. It is referenced up here. It was Commissioner King that asked about it. I researched it. It's a new bill that allows or requires for new mining operations to give disclosure to any structure within a half a mile. It doesn't ban mining operations within a half mile of structures. It just says you have to give disclosure. We investigated a little further. We actually asked the state legislature, is that exactly the truth? In your packet, I think you've seen there is a letter from the Ledge Council, which are the attorneys from the legislature, basically articulating that exact same thing. This is not a buffer. It's a requirement for new plans to give disclosure. So those were that was a big question, I think, at the last Planning Commission. Hopefully you have that answer in your packet. It doesn't prevent anything that we're doing with Government Tank. It has no legal ramifications at all. A couple other questions in terms of where the hard rock is, the demand for hard rock. We can get into some of those questions. I think Pete kind of answered most of that last time and did a pretty good job in terms of telling you kind of where the hard rock is, where we need it. We basically need it to build roads all over the valley, all over the state. And it's got to be near the location where this construction is happening. Because again, the hauling is the most expensive piece. And so if you're hauling it from Chino Valley or parts further away, the roads for the public, the roads for developers, the roads for everybody are going to be that much more expensive. So you've got to find a location that's near a growth area, and this is a growth area. This is sort of that letter that is in your packet as well from the Legislative Council that kind of just talks about that bill. Another question I think was asked, Commissioner Grassi, in terms of the blasting. You know, I think you asked last time in terms of how loud is that? How, you know, and we did a little research. We had thrown this chart up last time that showed sort of decibels of jackhammer and rock crushing, and those are jackhammer and rock crushing at the source, right at the source, about 120 decibels at the highest. We did a research as well in terms of what a blast sounds like. And so a blast sounds like a jackhammer or a rock crusher at the source. So kind of loud, but it's for 2 to 5 seconds, and then it's done. And so that gives you an idea of sort of the noise. And every question that came up in either the open houses and in Planning Commission, we are trying to make sure that we research and we evaluate and we provide answers to the community and to you in terms of what the impact is. Because ultimately you're here tonight to evaluate, is this general plan and is this rezone compatible with the surrounding areas? And I'm here to tell you tonight that it is. And I'm going to walk you through all of the other issues that you have been heard and have been talked about in terms of potential impacts. Here's a slide that talks a little bit about the neighborhood meetings. Again, you don't have to crane your neck. You can probably just listen to me. I'll talk you through it. But again, we went through hours of Q&A, and we had the experts and the operators there to talk about the mitigation measures that they have for sound and dust and noise and water. I have a couple slides here that we could get into with all of the issues that we've addressed, but if you've listened to last time, you've read the very robust staff report, you'll see that when it comes to blasting, we have mitigated all of the potential issues. The development agreement has very limited blasting. So in today, the actual site that's there today on the east side of the park, none of these requirements, none of these regulations exist. They've blasted once in the last 20 years. I think I heard somebody a minute ago say that there was a recent blast. I had to ask our partner operator, and he said, I think that was from home building. That recent blast was from home building, not from mining. So there is some other rock crushing and other activities in the area for home building that is probably just as, if not as noisy in the area. So there's going to be great monitoring. We're going to have professionals out there. We've limited the number of events for blasting. All of those details are now in the development agreement. And the development agreement is a unique tool where it's a contract. I mean, it's a very, very hard and fast contract, and it has rules for when you break the contract. So it's a good place to put some of these more specific standards in there. Water use was brought up, I think, last time. In the development agreement, we have a restriction that we will not be able to drill another well. There will be no new groundwater drilling at the government tank sites. So the impact on surrounding wells, there will be no impact. We're going to be importing water in, no new wells on the government tank site. When it comes to dust, I think you heard a little bit from Pete last time, or at least you've heard in terms of the workers at the site where different regulators and testing to make sure that they are not at the site, the workers are not inhaling any harmful dust. In addition to that, that they use watering on all of the conveyor belts, on all of the equipment, anything that's producing dust, they have a watering capability. The road, the site, everything will be watered with large trucks. So the dust will likely be very, very minimal, very, very minimal. We've been asked to, and we're also looking at more of a glue that you spray down on the roads afterwards. So you grade the road, and instead of running up and down with water trucks, you can spray sort of this soil glue that keeps the dust down for a longer period of time. So we're looking at that as well. So the development agreement. We talked a lot last time about the potential development agreement, what it says and what it doesn't say. Mr. Hathaway mentioned no rock harvesting for 15 years outside the site. And that's true. That is in the development agreement. And in fact, that was an issue he suggested. That we not expand, or the owner be prohibited to expand the operation outside the 40 acres. Now, in the 20 years I've been doing this, I've never rezoned a piece of property and then had a client agree to, for 15 years, never expand outside their piece of property. You know, every landowner or property owner has the right to petition the government to rezone their property. That right exists in the Constitution and exists as a zoning code. So for the owners to restrict themselves for 15 years to never apply for an expansion of this use is actually a big deal. Never seen it in my life. That use and that request did come from Mr. Hathaway, and our client said yes to it, and it is in the development agreement. The development agreement also has some ideas in there where, let's say we go through this process, this gets referred, and it fails. We've gone through the process, all of this gets approved, and it fails at the ballot. It's an option, it's a possibility, we know that. The development agreement actually states that the city is going to be the town will be in a better position if that happens, meaning that they will have more regulatory control on the Fain site. Because if it fails, they're going to go back to the Fain site, or the West Fain Lake site. If it fails, they normally would have the same controls as are in the county in terms of light, blasting, dust, hours of operation. So what we decided in this development agreement agreed to is if all of this goes away and we have to come back to the West Fain Park site, the town will have more regulatory ability to control the operations. it will be the same regulations that we're agreeing to for government tank. So that wouldn't exist otherwise. So I think that's another important give that this family and this operator have done in order to be a good neighbor. Again, they could go there today, but to be a good neighbor, they are agreeing to more and more and more regulation. One of the other items that's popped up, I think, a few times, or well, actually this is a slide that talks about the operational requirements. Today in the county, there's no limit on detonation or blasting or noise backup mitigation or hours of operation. All of that is in the development agreement. A handful of new regulations are in the development agreement that will apply to the government take site if approved, and then would apply to the West Fan Lake site if denied and it is not rescinded. So additional, there'll be no well water, there'll be adherence to dark sky ordinances, the access road will be watered and have dust controls. So many of these things that don't exist today, we have worked with your town staff to make sure that they're in this development agreement. The last thing I think that most people have heard about is the deed of the land, the gifting of the land. So one of the things the town said to us a year ago or earlier this year is like, not only do we want you to go back and take another stab at the general plan amendment and the zoning case, but we want guarantees that if you get government tank, that you're not in 20 years, 10 years, just gonna come back over here and get this rock. Because let me take a minute and tell you, there is rock here at the West Fan Lake. They know it. It sticks out of the ground. They've seen it for years. They know exactly what's there. They think the same amount exists out of government tank, but it's covered in dirt. They've done some inspections and some soil samples, and they think they know what's there. But until they start digging the dirt away to see what's there, they have no idea how much is there. West Fan Lake is a known commodity. It's sticking out of the ground. And so the promise was made by our client that, okay, if we get what we want, we will gift the land to the town. And the town will use that as a park. And that's a restriction. It isn't the town gets it and then they can put it in an RFP and sell it to a developer down the road and make money. It is a restriction that it can be used as a park. We have reversionary, clause there as well, and if they violate that. But in reality, this becomes a future expansion of the park, and we support that. Now, the other item that's talked about that's in the development agreement, again, not in front of you tonight, but I think it's important to give the entire story and the entire picture, which is that if in the future, even though we're giving the land for free, 80 acres of land for free to the town, if in the future the town decides to vote and refer a new property tax to the ballot, there is a county property tax, so we're talking about a new town property tax. If they decide to do that and that passes, then the Fane properties will be eligible for property tax rebates up to the amount of the property that was gifted. So it's one-for-one value. Now, I will tell you, we had a long discussion last week with town council. We hope we never get a dime. We hope the town never approves a new property tax or a new leasehold tax. But if they do, then at least there's some sort of reimbursement back to the family for giving 80 acres away. And it's not a check that the town has to write. It's a rebate and a reimbursement of a new tax. And so we feel like that was the most fair reimbursement to add in there. It doesn't violate the gift clause. It would never exceed the value of what the town received. So I think it made a lot of sense. This is just a map that, again, I think it's important to kind of show the orange striped area as it relates to the park and the current property. This is the land that they could mine today. They could extract rock from that piece of property today and go onto the public roads and get it over to the existing site for processing. So it's important to know sort of where that's located. I show you a couple maps. You can actually see Stone Ridge houses on there right now. In summary, we're here today because our client has spent the last 4 years deferring the operations at the site to be a good neighbor. Spent 4 years spending a lot of time, energy, and money getting kicked in the teeth publicly to do it, to be a good neighbor. The town leadership came to us and said, please go through this process again. Please have an airtight deal here where this land can never be developed in the future. Let's go through this development agreement. And they've spent the last 4 years putting their partner on hold. Their partner has now gone to Chino Valley and has spent millions of dollars of extra hauling costs to haul rock out of Chino Valley to process up here over the last few years. So it's been at great cost and time to our client to be here today to process this general plan and zoning case. And in a big picture, you're asked to look at a general plan amendment and a rezoning case in the vein of, is it compatible? Does it improve the condition? You hear a lot and you see a lot in some of the writings, well, they haven't proven that this is an improvement. Well, if you look at where it could go and where we're proposing, I don't know anyone who could say that that's not an improvement. When you consider a new land use change in a general plan and consider a new zoning change, you ask to see, is it an improvement? And have they mitigated any potential incompatibilities? And I will tell you, any of the potential problems that were ever thrown at us, we threw it in the development agreement and said, here's how we're going to mitigate that. So not only is it a more compatible site from a land use general plan standpoint, but from a zoning standpoint, we have added multiple conditions above and beyond where I ever thought we would be 6 months ago in terms of trying to address compatibility issues and adding new regulations. And as a body that looks at a zoning case and a general plan, that's what you look at. You look at, is this better than what could happen today? Is this an improvement? Have they done a good job addressing the issues? And I would tell you that they have. And they've spent 4 years and a lot of time and a lot of money doing so. With that, Mr. Chairman, members be happy to answer any questions.
Now, forgive me, I'm horrible with names, so I'm going to say, how do you pronounce your name again?
Yes.
Lawley.
Yes.
Mr. Lawley, thank you very much this evening for giving that presentation again. I'll open it up for the commission for any comments, but I would like to start. I need some clarification, only because, I hate to say it, but I'm a little confused on the west of Fane Park, and I believe I heard you say, both in this meeting and the last one, that is a location that Fane and the applicant are currently allowed to operate in if they chose to. They just were looking for a different site due to some issues you addressed earlier. If the government tank site was approved, made it through the whole process, was approved, what keeps the applicant then from using both locations? Is this where we're speaking to the 80 acres that would be gifted to the city? That's where I'm confused, where the 80 acres is in reference to the area there west of the park that they're currently allowed to work in if they chose to.
No worries, no worries. Give me a minute to think about the question. Mr. Chairman and Commissioner, if you just swing around and take a look, I can probably try to explain it a little bit more. So the orange striped area is about 80 acres. We call it the West Fane Park expansion area. That area is in unincorporated county. That area today could be mined pursuant to a state permit. That was the anticipated future expansion area. So it's about 80 acres. Let me flip back one. This is an exhibit that is in the development agreement. So you can see the hatched areas, and Ivan and I went painstakingly through this exhibit to make sure that it exactly meets the intent of. So you'll see there's the road on the north, and then there's kind of a squiggly boundary on the north of parcel 2. So that is Lynx Creek. So everything north of Lynx Creek was never anticipated to have rock. And so that's not an area that is anticipated to ever have mining and will not be deeded to the city or gifted to the city. However, the development agreement is written, and Ivan was very, very careful in terms of if in the future we get what we have at Government Tank and we start operations there, and then within a year we gift this to the town, this 80 acres here, we're also prevented from doing any operations on any of the other county lands outside this 80 acres, sort of north up to Lynx Park, or Lynx Creek, or north of that. We can develop it, we'll still own it, but we can't do any kind of mining operation on it. And so,
That's at 15 years you talked about, correct?
no, that is forever.
Okay, I see.
So the 15 years, and again, I know it's very confusing, and it did take us a while to kind of do all of this, but really the prohibition for Fane not to expand operations for 15 years is for government tank, the 40 acres of government
I
tank.
understand, thank you.
So here, there are two mechanisms. We give the land to the town, and then there's a mechanism by which we're prevented from doing any operation on the town, piece of the sliver of the property north of the creek that we're not giving to the town forever. And then you jump to government tank, and at government tank, we're getting 40-acre rezoning and general plan approval to do operations there. And then outside this application tonight, on property owned outside of the 40-acre government tank, we're agreeing that for 15 years, we'll never apply to expand the site outside the 40 acres. Now, in order to do that, we would come back before this body and seek approval anyways. But we've agreed in a development agreement not to do that for 15 years, to give people in the area, Mr. Hathaway, who lives in the area, an idea of what won't happen in the next 15 years. So I think it again, trying to be a good neighbor at the Fane Park site, trying to be a good neighbor at the government tank site.
Okay, thank you. One more question I have. You spoke briefly to the conditions and implementations of I will call SOPs on the site there for minimizing dust and the variety of things that come from this type of operation. Can you speak a little more to if there is a set or regulatory schedule on when those sort of things have to occur? I think for the audience to understand that, you know, this isn't just where they're going out and blasting and there's dust everywhere. I mean, in my career, I've worked on sites like this as engineers and things and have seen some of those systems in place. So I'd kind of like to see if you could speak to that a little more.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I'm not an expert in the industry, but I've listened to Pete and the folks at AP&S talk religiously about the regulation. There are about 4 other state, federal, county regulators, industry regulators, that regulate all of the portions of this industry. You know, outside of what you see here are all of the new regulations that we've introduced as additional regulations that the town now has jurisdiction over. So at the government tank, or at the West Fane Park site right now, it's in the county. It's regulated by the county, and it's regulated by the state and all of the other industries. And so there is a protocol for inspections. There's a protocol for safety. You know, and so the state, local, federal, all of them are very, it's probably one of the most regulated industries for obvious reasons. If it's not regulated, it could be dangerous to the employees and dangerous to the surrounding areas. And so I can't walk you through the exact protocols for all of those.
Understood.
Understood. Twist my arm, I can bring Pete down, but
I know one of them you spoke to that in order for dust, the water trucks come through, they water down the area. You spoke to another process of applying a glue type substance to help minimize that in the haul roads and things. My question relative to that is, you had spoke that there would be no new well on that site. So where would those water trucks be getting that water and stuff to maintain a wet surface so that we minimize the dust in that area?
So let me go back to this map. So really, real quickly, the answer is the existing site. Whoop, this is very touchy. So we will be building a 4.5-mile haul road from what's the yellow blob in the north, which is the existing operation. And that's the existing operation where all of the rock comes, whether today from Chino, in the future from Government Tank or West Fane. It all goes there for processing. And there's multiple different types of processes for different types of materials that they produce. That has a water source. That site has a water source there. And they've been monitoring the usage of that water site. The water will come from there. The trucks will be filled up there. There'll be a tank, probably a non-well tank, be placed on the government tank site that will hold water as well. And so all of the water source will come from the main site and will be trucked to this site and or used on the road.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, anybody? Mr. Hewitt? Vice Chair, I should say.
Yeah. Mr. Lawley, I have some questions. I'm going to be all over the map. You weren't, but my notes are, so you're going to have to bear with me here. If we could look at the current existing site, the 96 acres that currently has approval for mining. I'm confused by a couple of things. The first thing that you'd mentioned that a portion of that property is in the county. Will that be annexed, or is there a plan to annex that property and then give it to the town? Because we want to make sure we get the whole site. I think people are concerned that if it isn't the whole site, then there's a piece left over that could potentially be mined. I know you said the area near Lynx Creek, not likely.
Mr. Chair, Vice Chairman, so what you see there is all of the area, and that actually, this map of the orange and orange stripe, it isn't a perfect map. Let me go back to sort of probably this map. This map probably shows you the best. So everything that's hatched is in the county and in the development agreement to be deeded to the city. Now, we don't plan to annex it prior to the city. Now, you'll see some parcels that are along the roadway there. Those are actually already annexed into the city. We still own them, and we're going to give those as well to the town. So when the town receives the gift, which is a requirement, the development agreement, I'm assuming the very first thing they're going to do is annex the property in. I would, if I were them. But we're not going to do that for them. We're going to gift it to them, and then they will go through whatever. We're going to give it to them with the requirement that we can't do sand and gravel on it. Neither can they. They can only use it for a park. So they'll be the owner of county land with restrictions on it. And then the land that isn't going to the town, which is sort of the land that's north of the hatched, the remainder of parcel 2 that kind of goes, sort of north of the Lynx Creek, over that right-of-way that exists there today. Let me see if I can go back to this map. And then all the way up to kind of the business park. That is included in an exhibit in the development agreement that says, but in that area, you can't do mining operations on that either. You can keep it, and you might be able to expand that business park there, but you can't do mining operations there either.
That kind of answers my question. I guess where I'm going with this is that obviously 2 different regulatory authorities. You've got land that's not in the county, that's in the county, owned by the town. The town has no regulatory authority over it. Maybe your agreement may hold water with the town, but I know that I've got a little bit of experience working with the county, probably 35 years, and I know that mining operations that have been approved in the county has taken a hands-off position on those as far as any regulatory authority over them. They defer to state and federal agencies. So, I think, and again, I can't advise the town on what to do. I'm just asking the question that it might be more prudent to annex it first and then give it, as opposed to having some land out there. And maybe Ivan could speak to that or not, if that would be appropriate.
Mr. Chair,
yeah.
Is this on? Mr. Chair, I can tell you that the town would annex it forthwith. The town does have some regulatory authority of land that it owns that is in the county, but it would not spend much time on that basis. It would annex it quickly, and property owned by the town can be annexed quickly.
Yeah, and I'm familiar with that process. I just know that there, for the county's position, even though it's another agency, they're just another landowner in the county, they'd still be subject, I would suspect, to county regulations. Am I wrong? No? Okay. All right. I stand corrected. Thank you, Ivan. Okay, so that's that question. A lot of the stuff I've been reading of people in support and people against talk about airborne particulates. And generally what we see in most cases are models that are done previous or prior to any excavation or blasting or mining operations. Can you talk a little bit about what might have been done and maybe what ADEQ's position is on these airborne particulates and the plan or the model that has been studied for this?
Mr. Chairman and Mr. Vice Chair, And I think what we're talking about is government tank, right?
Right, yes, I
'Cause that's-
apologize. I'm
in
switching
reality,
gears here.
That's the
Yeah.
only thing that's in front of you tonight, right?
Mhm.
Is government tank. We're
Yeah.
going to zone it and allow for mining operations on government tank or rock harvesting. And so they've already began the process with the state. And so what the steps are is you get your entitlements, you get your legal ability to go do that first, and then you start going through the air quality permits at ADWR and go through all the secondary regulatory. So if you go to the state without a zoned piece of property that doesn't have the legal right to do the operation, they're going to say, go back and get the legal right to do that first, and then come back to us, and then we'll go through the dust permit as well. So that's going to be the next step. We haven't done that yet. We haven't done a dust permit. I can't show you models of where the winds are and the trends. I will tell you, many people went out to the site. The last go around, I think there's even been some recent tours. This site sits down in a valley. It is down in a valley. And so it's better than some of the operations. And I drive up from the valley to go to these hearings, and I see some operations on the freeway on both sides as I'm coming up. And some of them are taking down a mountain. And you kind of see some dust coming off, and you see maybe some homes that are downwind from them. This is in a valley. And the drone shot, you can see most of, if not all of, any particular impacted homes are up on a ridge from it. And so I think that lends it very well to a model that's going to probably show the least impacted from trade winds that are coming through on the mountaintops. I'm not a wind expert, I'm not a dust expert, but common sense tells me that this is a really good location from that perspective. But they will go through that process with the state after we're done here.
Sure, and I recognize the elevation differences. That certainly lends itself to be a better condition for this sort of migration of air particulates or any other thing that might wash away from the site. I'm sure there's erosion control plans and things like that have to be put in place. That being said, was there any discussions, and of course I didn't see it in anything that I read, that if, for instance, the zoning is approved and this thing moves forward, is there a provision in the agreement or the zoning that if it's onerous, ADQ comes back and says, hey, we got a problem here. There's going to need to be some real mitigation or a severe model to help control this. You've got a problem down there. Is there a provision that the zoning change be reversed?
Mr. Chairman and Vice Chairman, the answer is no. And it's almost, and I deal with a lot of regulatory agencies where they build sewer plants, water plants, and they deal with ADEQ and ADWR, and almost always the state has a separate compliance program in place. The state can't reach down and take away the zoning, nor do we today want to have a conditional zoning approved today that would say if something happens with dust, the zoning automatically goes away. Because then the state would be like, well, hold on, we have our own compliance program. We're going to put you through here to get in compliance. If there's a violation, you're going to go through that. It's not our job to figure out your zoning or not zoning. So I would not advise my client to have any sort of conditional trigger that the zoning goes away for some reason. I would say that our clients and the operator have been operating next to Stone Ridge for the better part of the last 30 years. They've been a good neighbor. They've been a good operator. And I think they know what they're doing. And I think if they were to run into issues like you're saying that are unforeseeable, they're going to mitigate it, and they're going to work with the regulatory agencies to make sure that they comply.
Good. Yeah, and that kind of a segue into my, I think, final set of questions. So if, and again, you have to understand, I'm reading a lot of things about people asking about airborne particulates and silica and all those kind of things, which, you blow up stuff, there's going to be migration of material somehow. So my question is, if we're talking about this site, and I know you've got a 15-year. One of my questions that I asked at the last meeting was, how long is it going to take to mine this stuff out of there? And there wasn't really a clear answer to that, and I don't know that anybody has a clear answer to that because it could depend. So why 15 years? Why not 20, 25, 30? You get to a point and you may hit the boundary at 5 years or 10 years or 15 years. What mechanism brought us to that 15-year, decision?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman and Vice Chairman, the term of the agreement in the conditional use, or the term of the development agreement is 50 years, 5-0.
Oh, okay.
5-0.
Okay. All right.
So it's anticipated that the operation of the 40-acre rock harvesting will last 50 years. The 15 years is the prohibition that we've placed on ourselves not to expand the 40 acres outside of the 40 acres for 15 years.
Right.
And so I think, like you said, it's a little vague until we get out there, we start turning the dirt. And really what they have to do is they have to take the soil off. They have to get down to the rock to see how much rock is there. And in reality, I think they've even said, still have no idea. We may get in there and there may be 25 years worth of rock there. There may be 50 years worth of rock there. There may be more. But today, we've anticipated a development agreement that allows for a 50-year life cycle for the 40 acres.
Yeah, and that's why I feel like maybe it might be commensurate with the expansion, 15 years to 50 years, that's quite a difference. And that's just me reading through and getting different people's perspectives on where they are, where they land on this thing. And then I guess the last thing is I'm still struggling to understand, and of course I'm not a business guy, but I'm still struggling to understand that if the Fain Park section, and I get being the good neighbor, but if the Fain Park section essentially has the gold laying on the ground, I don't have to build a haul road. I don't have to maintain a haul road. I don't have to haul water. I don't have to, I don't have to bring the stuff to get crushed and to be processed and all that. I could do it all right there. I mean, it's literally on the ground. You even said, you can see it sticking up out of the ground. Why would I go somewhere else to mine it with the potential that there may not be what we thought was there?
Mr. Chairman and Vice Chair, that is a great question. And really, it goes to my client's commitment. I know you kind of laughed about it, but their commitment to be a good neighbor. They've spent 4 years trying to do this, when 4 years ago, they could be doing exactly this. And their operator could have saved millions of dollars over the last 4 years, not hauling from Chino Valley. And so I scratch my head sometimes, especially after getting to the end of this development agreement and seeing all the things that we're agreeing to, when none of that would exist if they just started operation there today. But again, the Fain family have been in this valley for a long time. They're going to be in this valley for a very long time. Their commitment to being a good neighbor and doing the right thing doesn't always make the most financial sense or political sense from my perspective. But all I can tell you is they were asked by the town leadership to do this. They were asked to go out and try something different, go find a replacement site. Don't do it there. And so we've been doing that.
And I'm a longtime member of the community, 40 years plus, and I can see benefits and I see the concerns, but I just have to ask the question. I caught plenty of fish there at Fain Lake, and really enjoy that area. So the thing that I come back to is them, getting this land to the town. No more operation other than the areas, the small areas for processing and the like, no further expansion in that area. And so I think some of the folks are concerned a little bit with the expansion of the government tank site and making sure that it's not going to happen overnight. 15 years, to some of the young people doesn't seem like, but it can happen overnight. So,
Mr. Chair and Vice Chair, let me make just one clarification. So the prohibition from the 15 years is a prohibition from ever coming back to you and asking permission to expand it. If on 15 years and day one, they can come back here, you would have the exact same process.
Sure.
You would do open houses, file applications. We would have to justify why we need another 10 acres or 15 acres or whatever to this body, and this body would then make a recommendation to town council. So it's not sort of after 15 years, all bets are off and they can go hog wild and expand. Mm-hmm. They have to come back through this process.
Or not. I mean, maybe.
Yeah. Maybe
okay.
we have 50, 60 years and it's a great site and they can get all the hard rock out of there that they want.
In understanding what you guys are doing through the other agencies, specific to airborne particulates, mm-hmm. is an important question I think you've answered, so thank you.
I tried my best.
Yeah, thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Ms. Griffin, Commissioner
Thank you.
Griffin, go ahead.
Mr. Lally, thank you for your presentation. I've heard you say it repeatedly tonight at our other P&Z meeting, and I'm sure that you've seen all of the concerns of opposition and particularly stating the mitigation impacts. And I've heard that tonight from a couple of my commissioners. I'd like you to please, and I'm not going to twist your arm to bring Mr. Thompson down. We'll let him sit comfortably in the back row.
Sorry.
So please share again verbally the thoughtful proposal that these mitigation concerns have been addressed, will be addressed, and personally as a commissioner, I feel that we don't have an issue with mitigation practices due to the development agreement, and more specifically, the operator, Asphalt Paving and Supply.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Griffin. The issues as we heard them through the entire process really fall into three buckets: dust, noise, and water. That seems to be the three buckets that most of the concerns fall in. Behind you, I'm going to read just sort of a list of the items, the mitigation items that are in the development agreement. And so we heard concerns about blasting. Is there just going to be unlimited blasting? It's going to cause noise and dust, and we're going to have explosions everywhere. And so we really, in the development agreement, narrowed it down, the blasting times, to a minimal amount of blasting times. And again, it's a little bit of a guess, because if you talk to AP&S today, they blasted one time at the existing site on the east side of Fain Park. One time in 20 years. So they may only blast one time in 20 years, but they've been asked to agree to some rules today. And so we have a minimum of 4 times in a year. 4, that's it. There's 4 times where there's going to be 5 seconds of blasting. And they're going to drill down deep, put the explosives down deep, and the explosives will go off. The sound will be probably like a jackhammer if you're standing right next to a jackhammer. 2,000 feet away at the nearest home, I doubt they'll ever hear anything, feel anything. All it does is kind of crack the rock, and then they get in there with the rock crushers and remove it. The blasting is the very last option. It's expensive, it's time consuming. They got to hire a professional company to come out and drill and set up, and it takes weeks, it delays everything. And so the blasting, although that we've limited it to 4 times, it's going to be their very last resort. So that's the noise. In the noise category, there was a concern about backup trucks. You know, the haul trucks have a backup beacon, just like a truck pulling into a Walmart or Amazon truck or whatever. And those beacons are there and required by safety regulators, because they don't want to be backing over people. And so the same thing exists here. We've agreed in the development agreement that we have to have those per OSHA and per other mining regulations, but we're going to try our best to kind of retrofit the trucks with some sort of a white noise mechanism that does exist out there, a technology that maybe it limits that backup to maybe behind the truck and it doesn't go off into the area. And so that's probably the 2 biggest noise mitigations that are in the development agreement. Hours of operation is always one of those things as well. Today, at the existing site, they can operate all day, all night. If you drive up by the CMEX site, they're operating at night. We've limited hours of operation to 7 to 7. So 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Thursday. So that's another noise and really activity mitigation. Even though the nearest homes are 2,000, 2,500 feet away, we are going to try to keep the site activity to normal business hours. The second thing was lighting. We heard a lot about, well, we don't want these big, huge lights, because they drive by the CMEX site and they're like, oh, we don't want that in our backyard, or we don't want that down the hill from us. And so we've agreed in the development agreement to adhere to the town's lighting standards and the dark sky lighting standards, both of which are way more regulatory than what you would see on any county island or any other site that operates at night. And so that's another mitigation. Up here, we also talk about the fact that we're going to comply with all of the notices for properties and residents within 1,000 feet prior to controlled detonations. And so, again, that's something that isn't required today. We've agreed to add that as a separate requirement. Well, we will send out notices. So we've got also a requirement for us to put a sign on the public right-of-way at the Hall Road entrance that basically has a number, and it's going to be the town compliance code enforcement folks, that if there is an issue, people know exactly who to call. If they see dust, they know that sign is there, they know who to call. They hear noise, they see the activity not consistent with the business practices, they know who to call. So that's in the development agreement as well. The site itself will have sort of its own restrooms, dumpsters, lighting for the operation, but we're not going to go out and build massive facility there. It's going to be kind of a small footprint out there, not like you see the larger facility. As I again mentioned, no wells to be drilled. It would probably be a lot cheaper if we drilled a well on the site, watered the trucks right there, use the water to water the equipment as they're loading the trucks. But there was a concern about drilling a new well close to residents to the south. What is that going to do to their well? So we've decided and agreed to in the development agreement to restrict the well. So noise, water, and then dust. We've agreed to have water trucks. And water, again, if we don't follow the rules, everybody is going to be watching us. There are dust permits that require state regulation in terms of dust. We will have water trucks running up and down this dirt road watering. We've also talked about putting this glue down. It's kind of a soil glue that actually kind of crusts it a little bit to where the dust, less water usage, I think. And up here, water is important. We want to make sure that we're using technology the best way we can to reduce the amount of water. And so dust, use of water, and basically the kind of noise and light are the three categories. We've tried to build everything into this development agreement. And I got to tell you, there was very few things that the town threw out that our client said no to. I'm not sure there was anything. Maybe Ivan can remember one or two things that I pounded my fist on the table at. But they want to be good neighbors, and they wanted to make sure that they put their money where their mouth is and put all of these commitments into a development agreement.
Thank you, Mr. Lally.
I've got one comment, Mr. Chair, if I could.
Commissioner Evans, go ahead.
This is a comment, not a question, but I've actually had experience watching a blast at an open pit mine. It was about 40 years ago. I was a banker. We had financed something called the Greg River Coal Mine, which is a huge open pit mine in northwestern Alberta. And they invited the bankers up to watch them blow stuff up, so we hurried up there. The nearest neighbors were caribou, rabbits, wolves, nothing in sight. I watched them sink hundreds, maybe thousands of pounds of TNT and then, hit the switch. There was, people would have you believe, remember the movies from World War I where no man's land and stuff is just blowing up and going into the air? And this was 40-year-old technology. I'm sure blasting has advanced since. It was a thud and a rumble and a few little kind of dust devil looking things. There was no explosion, no rock. In fact, the engineers don't want that. They're looking to fracture the overburden or the resource and remove it. They're not looking to send it 300 feet in the air. So I've seen it in action, and it was 40 years ago, but I'm sure nothing has changed that much, and it's nothing to be feared, trust me.
Commissioner Grassi, go ahead.
Good evening, Mr. Lally. Wanted to revisit the access road. So in the narrative, it states that this road would only be usable through lock gates, only available to the operation. So where I kind of want to take this here is the access road itself, its only purpose is industrial, just to transport the material from site to site, right? So I kind of wanted to pursue the initial amendment the application's for roughly 40 acres. That does not include the land that the road sits on, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Will the acreage for the land for the access road be included at some point? Is that captured somewhere? Because that road is industrial by nature, by its use. Where is that being reflected?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Grassi, so the road, the 4.5 mile haul road is in essence a private road.
Sure.
It stays on Fane property. It shows a little bit of a clip of non-Fane, but I think we're going to adjust it over a little bit just to make sure that it stays on Fane property. And so what we've worked out with the city, town, is this is not a public road.
Correct.
This is not going to be built and paved, to public standards. This remains a haul road very similar to some of the roads that exist within the existing excavation pit today. And so it will be designed, however, per CAFMA requirements for an all-weather emergency access road. And so the intent is not to incorporate that into the town through maybe a strip annexation or something like that, so that the town can regulate the road. It's meant to stay as a private road.
Sure. So it's essentially a driveway. And what I'm getting at there is, that would be part of the parcel that's being applied for in the major amendment applications. That's where I'm just curious where that acreage is being reflected, because currently it's not. And this road goes through pad 2-1, I believe parts of 1-1, I'm not sure. So that's where I'm just, this road seems to be overlooked slightly. And I just want to make sure that there's, if it's a 10-foot road, it's about 5.5 acres roughly. That's not being captured, and that road essentially is zoned incorrectly. So that's where I just want to be cautious and look at that at some point. I'm not sure if that's going to be part of an amendment to the development plan. It's a piece there hasn't been a lot of eyebrows raised at it.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Grassi, let me think about that a little bit more. I know that we've had a lot of discussions with the town about that road, permitting that road, watering that road. As that road approaches the public road, how we're going to reinforce that so that there's not additional wear and tear on the public roads. So there's been a lot of thought process to that. So let me think about that. And I hadn't really thought about including the road as part of an amendment. It would probably be very hard to legally describe and include in an annexation.
It's possible.
As part of the application, and not annexation of the town, but
sure,
annexation into a part of an application might be very difficult. But I see your point in terms of that it is being used for an industrial use, and we may want to, consider looking at that. But let me think about it.
Thank you, sir.
I do have a question, kind of piggyback there on Commissioner Grassi's comment about the Hall Road. At the point where it crosses I believe it's called Old Black Canyon Highway. Of course, that's a paved public use road. Folks use it to get into town and avoid some of the traffic. At the intersection there where it's due to cross, how will that be mitigated, regulated, controlled? And how many trucks do we anticipate cross what I would call that intersection now on a daily basis?
Mr. Chairman, as Commissioner Grassi referenced, the narratives do describe the idea of having locked gates. It's a private road. It's not going to be open to the public. We will be reinforcing the road there to limit any sort of impact to the road. In terms of streetlights or whatever signage, I think we'll continue to work with the town on what the best model. As I've understood from the operator, this may not be used every day. There may be an event where they gather a lot of aggregate rock, and then there may be a 2-week where they use it quite a bit, and then it may stop for a month or stop for 2 months or something like that until they, gather it up, need more of it. So it's not going to be an ongoing hundreds of trucks all day, every day crossing it, and guy with a flag telling cars to go. But I do believe that we'll continue to work with the town on terms of ingress and egress. In terms of the good thing is it's pretty open. You can, as the truck's coming up to it, they can kind of look both ways and see if there's anyone coming, and if they're going to have to stop and get out and unlock the gate.
I would imagine the intent is to do some, like you said, reinforcing or improvements to what I will call that intersection, just because I would imagine coming from a dirt haul road onto the blacktop, a large dump truck, we've all seen it. We drive around on the roads around here where we have heavy vehicles on roads and we see the damage they do to a normal paved street. So I'd imagine a truck coming up off or over that, there's going to have to be some work done grading to make this even so that we're not causing damage to the existing right-of-way.
Yeah. Mr. Chairman, now that I think about it, I don't know the DA out right now, but I do believe Ivan and I have some language in there that does allow for us and the town to work on road protection and road functionality as it hits. And I will defer to Ivan if he had anything else he wanted to add.
Mr. Mayor and Council, I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Chair and Commission members, the development agreement allows the town engineer to make that determination. And so he'll be using the town engineering standards.
Road standard. Okay, thank you. Any other questions from commissioners?
Yeah, just to piggyback on that, I had a couple questions, one that I missed and one that just came up. So yeah, I read that the town engineer is going to be involved, very thankful for that should this get approved or recommended to the town council for approval. Just a more robust section. I think that road currently is Millings and, maybe something. But one thing that I saw when I was reading through the submittal, there was, about traffic control, would want to look at that as well. And I think the town engineer, John, is quite capable for sure to make sure that maybe there's a stop condition there. It'd be a little nervous because I think it said in the brief something about, a yield condition with these big trucks when they get moving. If it's a yield condition and they make a mistake, it could be tragic to the people using that road. So, but I think a more robust section for sure to standards, including track out pads, maybe on either side to control migration of mud, that sort of stuff, some traffic control, I think would be prudent for sure. I have one question for the town. Do we have a dust palliative standard? So, a glue, do we, John, do we have that? We don't, okay.
Thank you, Commission and Chair. Thanks for the questions. We don't have a specific standard for that dust palliative like you're describing. We could certainly borrow one from another agency if we needed to. And to answer your questions about the crossing, developing a typical section for the road will be a pretty straightforward thing. We'll work with the mine operation to get numbers of trucks, the potential, weight of the trucks, how many would go, and how often would they use the road. We'd be able to develop a pavement section that would support that.
Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, I know that there's, any number of products that can be used as a dust palliative, or some have to be worked into the soil, and 4.5 miles, that could be arduous, and some can be sprayed on top. So I just make sure that's vetted, obviously, through, because the better application, the less time for maintenance.
Yeah, the language in the development agreement was for the approval of the town. We'll work with the developer to get that put in.
Okay, that sounds good. And then the one that I missed earlier for Ivan, I think potentially, we received a letter from a constituent that talked about maybe some sort of an inquiry to the Attorney General's office with regard to the proper notification and public hearing process, or the public notice process. I believe you're aware of that letter potentially because it was sent on down to the commission. Are we okay in that respect?
Mr. Chair and commission members, yes, we are.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else from the commission? I'd like to open for public comment. Clerk, do we have anybody that registered for comment on this issue?
Patricia Betzold.
Patricia, are you here? Oh, there you are.
Good evening. So, as Mr. Lally stated, 4 years ago, APS was on
Patricia,
track.
can I have you state your name and address? Sorry.
Patricia Betzel, Chino Valley. 4 years ago, APS was on track to expand the existing mine into the land owned by the Fanes on either side of Stone Ridge Drive. In 2022, Mayor Palguda said it well when he stated, owning large amounts of land does not automatically qualify anyone the right to carelessly attempt to develop it in the name of the mighty dollar. The town stopped the Fanes from mining several parcels, county parcels, around Stone Ridge Drive by denying the application for the right-of-way permit, citing concerns, and I quote, quality of life, and for being inconsistent with the town's strategic plan. Then, later, the town asked the Fanes to look at another site. The problem is the town didn't stipulate that it should be outside the town boundaries. In 2023, the Fanes attempted to rezone the government tank to M1 Industrial with 20,000 ton blasting, but the town M1 designation wouldn't even permit a mine because it eschews uses that create offensive noise, vibration, smoke, dust, odor, or glare beyond the boundaries of the district, in this case parcel, and it doesn't permit uses that pollute the air, surface water, groundwater, pose latent radiation or explosion and fire danger. Later that year, private citizens collected signatures to change the amendment to the general plan to major because there isn't even a designated land use for mining in the Prescott Valley General Plan. That same general plan designates that land and the adjacent 1,700 plus acres that the Fanes own as Village Pad -1 and for walkable communities and local commercial supporting homes. That designation occurred in the 1980s. The Fanes owned all that land, and they also sold the adjacent land to a developer for the now prestigious Stone Ridge development. Now they want to mine it, but that's not compatible with residential. In 2025, the town wants to make a deal. This time there's no mention of quality of life. Instead, and I quote, the town's overriding concern is mining next to Stone Ridge and seeing mining from the park. They also don't want trucks on Stone Ridge. The question is, do we really want PB to become a mining town? The Fanes own the 1,700 acres next to GT. The land looks just like the GT land. The agreement says that there's a promise not to expand for 15 years, but that's really not much time. Those 1,700 acres could end up in everyone's yard. The state could step in and allow them to expand it before the 15 years are over based on a state statute around existing aggregate pits. The Fanes could sell it, and that person could do it. So please think if you really want to change the general plan that designates residential next to residential to residential next to mine. A mine of any size is not compatible. For the thousands of people who voted for the general plan and trusted it, there are no mitigations. Thank you.
Thank you.
William Hathaway.
Mr. Hathaway?
He's gone.
Oh, I think he's gone.
Carolyn Zern.
My name is Carolyn Zern. I live at 715 North Blue Spruce Drive in Prescott Valley. I would like to see the town of Prescott Valley advocate for no mines near anyone's homes, wherever you are able to. And in this instance of the government tank quarry, you are able to do so. I think the time has come for no mines inside of town limits. I am very much against ignoring the over 2,000 Prescott Valley residents who signed a minor to major amendment initiative on the government tank quarry. As a major amendment, this quarry, with occasional dynamite blasting, has to be proven to be an improvement to the Prescott Valley General Plan, a plan over 11,000 Prescott Valley residents approved. These 11,000 residents count on their town to fairly represent their interests. How can anyone interpret a blasting quarry as an improvement to an area zone for Village Pad A1, which is residential. Also, it's surrounded by residential. Are you really going to tell the residents of this valley that as long as the landowner developer offers land in trade, then you will ignore the outcry of the residents near the impacted area and deem something like the GT Quarry an improvement to the people's general plan? An attitude of we are going to disrespect the general plan and the residents who voted for it, in this case of the GT Quarry, suggests to everyone that you work for the few and not the many. Ask yourselves this: if the GT Quarry goes to the ballot, how do you think the vote would go? Consider that in your deliberations. You are saying we are going to approve it whether you like it or not, and this same type of decision can be made in the future on open land near any residence as long as the landowner offers a quid pro quo.
Jennifer Jones.
Good evening. My name is Jennifer Jones. I live at 9645 East Ringgold Road in Dewey. My husband and I both live on Ringgold Road, and we're about a half a mile from this proposed mine. I'm opposed to the Prescott Valley rezoning to allow the mine at Government Tank. I have heard testimonials from residents at Mingus West, contrary to AP&S and famed Signature Group claims that this mining operation would not be seen or heard by any nearby residents. It is clear to me that this would probably not be the case. In addition to concerns about the noise from blasting and crushing rock so close to my house, I am worried about the earth shifting and causing cracks in my home. There is also the very real possibility that wind carrying silica dust would have an adverse effect on our health. The winds around there run 40 miles an hour. You've addressed a lot of the hauling road dust, but you haven't really addressed dust at the site. Mines should not be allowed anywhere near residential properties, period. The fact that I and my Dewey neighbors do not live within the Prescott Valley city limits does not negate the effects that this mining operation would have on our health and our ability to enjoy living in our homes. Thank you for your time.
David Larner. Isabel Saracides.
Before you start the clock, are you taking statements for the major amendment or for the zoning map change?
This is for the general plan amendment.
Okay. Good evening. I'm Isabel Saracides. I'm a resident of Viewpoint North for 16 years. I did attend the last meeting that you all had, and you came up with some very good questions. However, I don't think that you got very good answers. You are being asked to determine how this, in of itself, which there is a legal term per se, that leaves everything out, if it is an improvement to the general plan as required for a major amendment. Chair Erb, you asked about the environmental impacts and the long-lasting effects. The response, in my opinion, was sugar-coated. There was talk about planting native grass, trees, the deer would come back, javelina would be there would be some erosion control. However, what they didn't tell you is that the material taken from the earth, which is estimated to be 5 million tons of usable material will leave a big hole in the site, and there will be long-lasting effects. Commissioner Huot, you asked about the longevity of the pit, and we've heard here tonight that it could be 50 years. The enterprise is spending a lot of money. It's not going to be a short-term operation. The applicant narrative says there is that estimated 5 million tons of usable materials, so imagine the time, effort, and disruption that will cause. Commissioner King asked about the A1 planned area development and was told that if we were completely compatible with all the general plan, we wouldn't be here. In other words, the ball is in your court, and with limited information, you are charged with deciding on whether or not to allow a badly planned industrial use, whether it is going to conform with the future plans of Prescott Valley. You are also told that the Chino Valley operation will continue. And I want you to consider that PV is not responsible for providing materials to all over the state. This is a money-making operation, and that's fine, but it should not be at the detriment of the community. The general plan does not contemplate, nor does the major amendment conform to industrial for a sand and gravel operation in the A1 pad. And I've also heard tonight several times that the town is pursuing this. By all accounts, the Fain Enterprises has rights to where they are currently having their operation. As a standard practice, I'm wondering why the town of Prescott Valley is pursuing this when a lot of the residents don't want it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Jason Chisholm.
Yes, Jason Chisholm. I'm here representing the town of Dewey-Humboldt as a council member there. Back on the 2nd of September, you have before you tonight, we passed a resolution in opposition of this mine. We have residents, as you stated previously, 2,000 feet from this mine. They're on well water. They have to haul water right now. They have no water. So by you doing this, you're not only going to affect those that do have water, that are fortunate to have water by fracking the ground. I don't care if you're going to sit there and say that you're only going to blast it 4 times a year. You blast it once, you've now fracked the ground. You fracked the rock underneath. You're going to cause those wells to fail that do have water. I'd say 90% of my Blue Hills residents, and this might be far-fetched, have to haul water. I have a council member back in the back with me that himself has to haul water for irrigation purposes and his animals. So this is a major issue that we are being asked. I sit on a panel of 7 council members, 6 plus the mayor, and we are being asked by our constituents on a timely fashion to stop this. We don't want this mine this close to our residents. I strongly urge all of you tonight, you have a chance to vote. As it's been previously stated, are you voting for the betterment of the community for this general plan amendment? Or are you going to go against what your citizens and what your neighbors want? You keep talking about being a good neighbor here. Okay? Being a good neighbor would not be putting this mine next to your neighbor. You have all of that land in all of Prescott Valley. The Fains founded this town back in the 70s. Okay? You have all of that land in this town. Why do you need to put it next to your neighbor to the south? That's the big question here. I've heard people in opposition of this. I've heard people for this. I'm going to sit here right now and say the town of Dewey-Humboldt is strongly in opposition of this mine. We will remain in opposition to this mine. We have passed a resolution. So if anybody here wants to email me, my email is cm.chisholm, CHISHOLM @DHAZ.gov. Any of you are welcome to email me. You can also call me. My phone number is 928-830 2-202-7578. Call me anytime. I'm here to answer your questions. I'm here to be your neighbor. But my constituents have urged me and the town of Dewey Humboldt to strongly oppose this mine. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Eileen Navasek.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, my name is Eileen Nabasic. I've been asked to read a statement from Sharon Lyons, 1376 North Ironwood Lane, Prescott Country Club. She has rescinded her statement, so I just wanted to approach the mic and inform you of that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chuck Gorman.
So, Commissioners, thank you for this opportunity to speak. I was not going to speak this evening, but I've heard enough that maybe I do have a few points you should be aware of. First of all, I wanted to...
Mr. Gorman,
Yes.
can you just state your name and your address?
Sure, Charles Gorman. I live at 1896 Fitzmaurice View Court in PV.
Thank you.
Sure. I wanted to thank, first of all, Mr. Lawley for the excellent explanation and history of what we've gone through here. I also wanted to thank the Faines and the Fain family and the Fain Signature Group for trying to be good neighbors. I've been a business person before. I really try to work on the ethos, I think that's the right word, of do the right thing. Treat people the way you want to be treated, and things are going to work out well for you. Maybe you're not going to be multi-billionaires, but you're going to continue to have customers, and you're going to continue to do what's right and know that in your heart. So Commissioners, you do have a 2-page handout from me that was distributed this evening. The top half is a map, looks somewhat similar to that, but it gives some of the distances to homes and the various sites. I wanted to point out a couple of those, if I can read it here. First of all, sorry, glasses. First of all, if we look at distances from homes to the various sites, there are a lot of homes that are a lot closer to the West Fain sites than there are to anything in Blue Hills from Government Tank. Specifically at 1/2 mile from the West Fain sites, there are 345 homes. In the Government Tank area, there are approximately 20, and it might be as low as 13. At 1/4 mile, there are 25 homes that are near the West Fain sites, and at the Dewey Blue Hills area, there are either 0 or 2. The 2 are approximately 0.26 miles, so maybe the measurements are a little bit off. But I wanted to point out those numbers again and make sure you do what's right for the citizens of PV. It's unfortunate maybe that the neighbors feel like they're too close. I'm going to say they're not. Thank you very much.
There are no more speakers, Chair.
Thank you. So I close the GPA, the public comment and discussion for, I gotta get my notes in front of me, I apologize. GPA 25001 Government Tank.
I believe we have another question. He's been trying to signal.
Yeah. Here, let me reopen the public comment. Sir, you can go ahead.
He needs to come to the microphone.
Sir, I'm going to have you pause 1 second, just so we're going to bring you a microphone so that everybody can hear you well. The people online are not able to hear you.
I'm sorry. My apologies. apologies. I'm in the 19th century, so, okay. So my concern is it just on mining or is it on industrial? Because on the mining side, listening to this thing, I'm against it, but I wouldn't rule it out. Now, I would give them a 50-year variance and not change the residential thing because it is zoned for homes. And if that's all they're going to do, just give them the variance. Let them build their hall. It's on a private road. They own the private land. That makes sense. But I don't want, if you start opening it up to industrial, now you can bring in distribution centers, commercial property, and that is between the housing developments. That will create more problems. So is that a possibility? Okay. So, and then the other thing is experts. I remember when we moved antelope down to Phoenix. In the first year, how many survived? According to the experts, none. Then I went fishing one year up in Show Low. I went to fish, and the Arizona Fish and Game decided to plant Minnesota pike. There were no trout anywhere, Joe. For a piece, the person likes to fish, Minnesota pike are not exactly good for trout fishing, is it? So-called experts are not always right. So I just hope you take all this stuff into consideration. Listening to what the gentleman said, I would just like to see some changes where you basically take into consideration that you're just going to leave that open land. It's like, I remember coming down here in Granville, they wanted to build a golf course. That was put down pretty quickly. I don't know why, because it improved values of homes in Granville, but it's all open spaces now. So do what's right for the community, and that's all I have to say.
He needs to come to the microphone.
Sir, you just need to come up to the microphone if you'd like to speak. You please state your name and address for the record.
My name's Randy Bosberg. I've been a resident of Prescott Valley for 23, 24 years. One thing I wanted to bring up real quick was they say they're not going to drill a well on the land, which to say they don't drill a well 100 feet outside of that 40 acres. Just food for thought. Anyway, so good evening, commissioners. So the development agreement states closing on such conveyance shall be within 12 months after the last of the approvals is fully vested, non-appealable and beyond all challenge periods, and after an appraisal is completed that evaluates all the properties shown in Exhibit A3 at the highest and best use as required for reporting the original gift value on IRS Form F-8283 for tax deduction purposes. In plain terms, this means the town will wait up to a year before even knowing the appraised value of the land being gifted. That appraisal is not for the town's benefit, it is for the Payne family to claim a tax deduction. So while the public is told this is a gift, the town cannot use the land immediately and the donor receives a significant financial advantage. Even more concerning is the clause that says if the town adopts any new property or excise taxes after November 2025, those taxes must be rebated back to the Payne family, and that's on any and all Payne properties and entities. That means while residents and small businesses would pay their fair share, this developer would be shielded from future tax increases for as long as it takes to pay off the gifted land. That means the town could have been using some of this money to support roads, parks, police, and community services. So how can this be called a gift when through tax revenue, lost tax revenue, the town is literally paying for the land, the gifted land? When is a gift a gift? Thank you.
Are there any other folks that would like to speak on this issue tonight before I close? We will, yes. As soon as this matter's done, we'll move to the zoning. Sir, can you come to the mic and state your name and address, please?
Tom Millette, 955 Wicklow Place in Blue Hills. I'm also on the council in Dewey. But I just have one question. If they're not blasting, how are they removing this rock? Because they're going to be using an excavator with a hammer on it. And that's going to be running for 10 to 12 hours a day. You're telling me I'm not going to hear that at my house? That's bull. Thanks.
All right, I'm closed the public comment period for GPA 25001 government tank. Commissioner would like to move to a vote.
I have some questions, Chairman Erb. Well, actually, more comments. I think it's important to understand what we do here on the commission. We serve as an advisory council to the town council. I've heard several folks say that we're approving something. We do not approve anything at this level. And I was corrected already from our attorney, Mr. Legler. If I'm wrong, am I wrong, Mr. Legler?
You're correct. You're making a recommendation.
That's correct. So we serve in an advisory position, and so I just want to make that clear that what we do here is forward a recommendation. We don't stand in any position to approve this item. I just want to make that perfectly clear. We are essentially, from what I can see, looking from one site to another, trading one site for another. We're not looking at both sites in operation. That's a point of clarification I think needs to be made. I know that when I was reading the major amendments, and maybe town staff can help me with this a little bit, it talked about that these major amendments are subject to a public referendum. And I don't know if this case would be subject to that public referendum. If that could be clarified, I'd appreciate that.
Mr. Chairman and board members, this is considered a legislative action, so when the council makes its decision, if it approves it, it would be subject to referendum.
Thank you. And then the last thing I'd like to say, to be fair, I know that there's been a lot of people talking in opposition. There are plenty of people in support as well. So I know you guys are here. The squeaky wheel does get the grease, but the squeaky wheel are also in support of this. So please understand that when you talk about being good neighbors, it may not always, being a good neighbor means it may not always go one way or the other, right? I mean, in favor or against. Being a good neighbor is being able to respect the decisions that your neighbors make and accept those consequences or advantages. So we have looked at a lot of material here, and there's a lot of material in support of this project. So just so you're aware of that. I know that people get up and talk about, hey, we made a resolution in town of Dewey Humboldt. We appreciate your involvement. Certainly that's what makes our country great. But there are people also that are in favor of this. So that should be considered as well. So thank you. That's all I have, Chairman.
Commissioner Evans.
Thank you, Chair. A few comments, and I'd like to explain my vote. I know which way I'm going to vote on these, but I think the people deserve to know why volunteer commissioners such as myself might vote for or against a particular proposal. 2.5 years ago, I toured this site. I was on the P&Z Commission at the time. I came back from that tour convinced that if the motion was made the next day, I was going to vote against it. I am going to vote for it tonight, both the general plan amendment and the zoning map change. Why? Because in the interim, I've been provided with facts. I've been able to make a rational analysis of the benefits, the costs. I was a banker for 35 years. It's kind of a Joe Friday, just the facts, ma'am. So, and what irritates me a lot, and this might be too much editorializing, This flyer, yes, a couple of days ago was on the door. Whoever printed it up had neither the courtesy nor the courage to say who they were. It's a sheet full of lies and fear-mongering, and that's been the case with a lot of the opposition. People have a right to oppose. People have a right to facts. They don't have a right to their own facts. One other thing, and people get all upset, and I understand it. 4 years ago, my community was opposition to the Fanes on a proposed development near Quillwood. And I made this mistake the first time. I looked at the existing zoning, which was 1.6 acres per residence. That is a placeholder zoning. It doesn't mean it's been approved. Decades ago, I don't know if it was by legislation or custom and usage, somebody somewhere decided, we don't know yet, we don't have a clue. Let's wait maybe a few years from now, but we have to call it something. Let's call it this kind of largest. It doesn't mean it's going to be houses tomorrow. I was out at that site, and with apologies to the Blue Hills folks, it's as far as you can get from any part of this town. Somehow you get the impression that this quarry is going to be something unique and strange. There's 91 incorporated municipalities in the state of Arizona. There's 294 quarries. There's a need for those. There's a requirement. There are tons of laws that regulate air quality, OSHA. So anyway, as I say, I fully support community involvement and feedback, but I can't support fear-mongering and lies, and that's a lot of what I've heard. Anyway, I'm done. Thanks.
Anyone else? Any commissioners? Further comments from the commission?
One last one that I skipped, and I apologize. I know a question came up, what if the Fanes sold this property? And I don't know, I didn't see, or maybe I missed it. Does this agreement run with the land, or does it run with the agreement with the ownership? Do we know?
It should be with the land. I think everything runs with land.
Mr. Chairman and Board, or Commission, I'm sorry, I'm not quite understanding the question.
Well, is there any prohibition that if this land is sold, any heirs or assigns would have to be subject to the same agreement?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Similar to Commissioner Evans, I felt the need tonight to give an explanation on when it comes to the vote, and I vote, there's an understanding to the community here and online why I voted the way I will be voting. For a general plan amendment, it is my understanding, and the way I read all the material presented to us, is that I need to find a way on how this benefits the town and its residents. That's the overarching issue here in my mind. How does this benefit us as a town? How does it benefit the citizens of this community? And make my decisions based on that information. I have a hard time understanding how this benefits the citizens of this town. Now, there are people here tonight and online and in the last meeting that obviously are both for and against the general plan amendment change and the zoning map change that we'll talk about here shortly. So for those reasons, looking at this to determine how does it benefit the town. When I look across Prescott Valley and I see, and have been to many of these meetings as a commissioner and vice chair and now chair, I've heard the community talk about a variety of things that they are for and against, and growth is one of them that they are adamantly against a portion of this town. Just as many, I think, are for growth. Growth is important. I see growth, and I look at growth as how does it benefit the town? Tax revenue to the town, population growth to the town, things that the citizens of this town can use and benefit from, restaurants, grocery stores, housing, things that help folks who live here can work here and not have to travel out of this town. I have a hard time understanding how this would benefit the town in those matters. So for tonight, those will be the reasons why I vote the way I vote. So For a vote, commissioners? Who calls the vote? Clerk call the vote.
To make a motion. Somebody has to make a motion.
We need to have someone make a motion for the vote. Motion for the vote, no.
Yeah, make a motion for GPA 25. And then
Someone else has to make that.
Yeah.
Okay. Do I have a motion for the vote for the GPA 25001?
I move that the Prescott Valley Planning and Zoning Commission adopt GPA 25-001, the government tank borrow pit.
Do I have a second?
Chairman Erb, I'd like to ask a question on that motion. Would it be more appropriate that we make a motion for GPA 25-001 to forward it to the town council for their consideration? Is
So
that the
amended.
more appropriate?
I would agree, yes.
Okay, I would ask my colleague to amend maybe their
So
motion.
amended.
I'll second that.
Clerk, can you call the vote?
Commissioner Grassi,
No.
Commissioner Kiewat,
Yes.
Commissioner Evans,
Yes.
Commissioner Griffiths,
Yes, and I would like to express my support for recommendation for the proposed government tank general plan amendment. And there are 3 reasons why in my mind. And I appreciate all of you tonight for your comments and your concerns from both the public, the community, Mr. Councilman from the town of Dewey-Humboldt. Your comments are all valued and heard. However, I'm still supporting this general plan amendment, as I will the zoning map change as well. I feel that we need local aggregates. We have growth. Our region is continuing to grow and expand. I feel that with the operator of Asphalt Paving and Supply, they have given thoughtful proposals and mitigation techniques, and the conversations have relieved some of the challenges and concerns in my mind. And more importantly to me, I think that government tank, as proposed before us tonight, strikes a balance. It meets the need for our community. And again, I will say how important and appreciative I am to hear all of your concerns. That means a lot to me that you've come out, you take the time to give us your opinion and your voice. It's very important. So because we have respected you tonight, I ask that you respect my vote. So thank you very much.
Chair Erb.
That'd be no.
Motion passes 3-2.
Okay, we move on to the next agenda item. This is for zoning map change 25008, government tank. Mr. Norlock, would you be, are you still here? Would you be kind enough to come up and restate the zoning map change, just to refresh everybody's memory since we spent so much time on the GPA?
Yes, I would.
Yes, Chair, Vice Chair, Commission. This is zone map change 25-008 to go from RL70, single-family residential, to IG, industrial general.
Okay, I'd like to open public comment.
Mr. Chair, could I ask Mr. Norlock to talk about the relationship of the conditional use permit and the rezoning?
Mr. Norlock?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Legler, for the reminder. This would include, as a condition, that this use would be allowed on that zone map change. And that's in the new code. We do allow that now for the conditional use permit to be included as a condition on the rezone of the ZMC. That way, it can just be all in one, and that way they don't have to come back and do a separate conditional use permit. It'll just be on this zone map change as a condition.
Understood. Thank you. Okay, I'd like to open for the public comment. Clerk, did we have anybody register for comment on the zoning map change 25008?
Yes. Patricia Betzold.
Patricia Betzold, Chino Valley. So first I want to let you know that we understand that you serve at the pleasure of the council and can be removed instantly if they disagree with you. So we understand that. I also want to say that if you have only read the supplied documents and not done any research outside of that, you are not really equipped to make a great decision. And in some cases, you may have even needed an outside lawyer to help understand some of these conditions, especially the development plan. So by now, of course, I hope that you've read the draft development agreement. That's the third draft that will seal the deal on the land swap, swapping the land around Fame Park, or forgive me, a portion of the land around Fame Park for the 40 acres of government tank. This agreement is predicated on the assumption that residents support this deal. Rather, 99% of them don't even know this is happening. They're going to wake up some morning to a mine and they'll be calling the town. So instead of asking the public's opinion or putting it on the ballot, the decision was made, I don't know if it was made by a single person, 2 people, based on saving a park instead of protecting the welfare of its residents and neighboring residents. But this zoning change will impact the entire town and set a harmful precedent. And that precedent won't just last 50 years. It will last as long as the 1,700 adjacent acres are available. This is a forever mine. 4 of the 6 parcels near Fane Park are now finally listed, as of yesterday, in the development agreement. 2 remaining parcels are adjacent to BLM land that is directly adjacent to the Victorian Estates. And by state law, that BLM land can be leased by anyone for mining purposes. And of course, the other 2 parcels are within the county. The Fanes and the APNS have a by right to mine those parcels. So I hope everybody enjoys the fruit of their efforts here. The conditional use permit is still pending, so at least it was addressed. I understand it will include any conditions that you put forth, or, excuse me, that council puts forth. But currently, we have no idea what that conditional use permit should look like other than the name of it. The on-site drilling, crushing, and detonation and hauling of rock material will now all take place at GT. In the neighborhood meetings, it was stated that the rock would be hauled to the existing APNS processing plant. That's no longer true. The September 26th draft of the development agreement, if any of you saw that, actually includes an increase to 100,000 ton blasting events, just so you know. So I have no idea what that feels like, and the environmental protections crossed out. 3 years ago, it was only 20,000 tons. The taxes have already been talking about. They don't need to drill a well and government tank. All they have to do is go next door into their 1,700 acres that they own to drill a well. They are retaining the water and mineral rights for the parcels. But really our worst fear is item 3.2F in the agreement, that they agree not to seek approvals. Very interesting statement there, very finite, within 15 years. But if they sell the property, if the state decides that it has the right to expand, because the state law, if you have not read it, is very liberal. In fact, their main law
we need to finish your
okay,
sentence,
2 sentences.
please.
The state law actually prohibits strictly anybody interfering with mines because they want us to mine. I get it.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Carolyn Zern.
Mrs. Zern? Oh, there we go.
Carolyn Zern, 715 North Blue Spruce Drive, Prescott Valley. I would just like to reiterate a few points that I made before. I would like to see the town of Prescott Valley advocate for no mines near anyone's homes. Okay? I think there are a lot of concerning points with this whole plan. Most of them have already been brought up. Without receiving very adequate answers, and just having someone appreciate our comments, and then just ignore them is not very helpful. Excuse me. I believe there is still a very evident or the appearance of this quid pro quo, for one thing. Also the fact that everybody keeps saying, well, it's better here than there. We don't want it in either place, okay? They've got plenty of land all over this county. I'm sure they could find another place to get their rock from. And excuse me, and not, impinge upon the current residents here. A lot of these people researched the zoning and everything before they moved here. And they were looking forward to a countrified, which is what the tier, according to the general plan, which I know you've already passed that on. But,
Ma'am, I ask you if you can wrap up your comments, please.
Okay, I'm sorry. A mine should not be in the residential areas, period.
Jennifer Jones.
Ms. Jones? Okay.
David Larner.
Gone.
Mr. Larner, gone.
Isabel Saracides.
Good evening, Chairman Erb and Commissioners. I'm Isabel Saracides, 16-year resident. I want to talk a little bit about the Arizona Revised Statute regarding rezoning. And I'm going to quote, "A rezoning ordinance conforms to the land use element of the general plan if it proposes land uses, densities, and intensities with the range of identified uses." So think about that. When you think about the intensity, was that actually in the general plan? I did not see it. The other thing is in Chapter 6 of the general plan, it talks about land use. The goal for Prescott Valley is to ensure that new development is compatible with surrounding land uses. and prohibit land uses that lead to the deterioration of existing residential neighborhoods or the character of the neighborhood. Assure that the type and intensity of the proposed land uses will be compatible with that of the immediate neighborhood. Use off-site impact standards to ensure non-residential activities will not adversely affect land with zoning that permits residential in other sensitive uses. Minimize hazardous conditions by ensuring users of hazardous materials are located away from residential. And the environmental goal for Prescott Valley is to maintain the town's superior air quality. I don't think that approving or moving forward the rezoning meets those requirements. I'm asking you to think long term. The future applications will be submitted for either industrial in that area or residential. After the 15 years, you don't know what's going to happen there. You will be approving something around a sand and gravel pit mine operation. Trucks will be running through it. If a subdivision is later approved, property for a school will be required. I ask you to oppose a new sand and gravel pit operation in Prescott Valley. And I also want to talk a little bit about the development agreement. It does include a rebate where my children and my grandchildren are going to be on the hook for whatever the appraised value is on that property by Fane Lake. Whether it's 12 million or if it's 20 million, Prescott Valley has to think about the big Chino. We have a water sustainability problem. We could use $12 to $20 million. There could be a recreation facility and there's another tax. You don't know what's going to happen in the future. So if you move this forward, you're putting the taxpayer on the hook for a lot of money. Thank you.
Eileen Nabasic.
No, the person I was reading for has rescinded their letter.
Thank you. Randy Vosberg. Chuck Gorman. That's all we have.
All right, is there anyone who did not register but would like to provide a comment? Ma'am, please come to the microphone, state your name and address.
Good evening. My name is Bear Shimon. I live at 7699 East Bravo Lane. Much of what has been said here this evening should be preceded by Once Upon a Time because it is a fairy tale. We have lived adjacent to this operation. I have lived for many years. My yard is not filled with dead bunnies. The birds are not dropping from the skies. This is a well-run opportunity for this community to continue to grow, to prosper, and to remain successful. I'm absolutely appalled that something like this should be circulated through our neighborhoods, talking about death and destruction and people suffering silicosis. We don't live in a country, we don't live in an area where we're abused by our government. I very much appreciate everyone's right to speak and say what they need to say, but this is, it's not facts-based. I want Prescott Valley to continue to grow and to continue to be a community where people can work and prosper. Please back off the emotional aspects of this. Thank you, sirs. And Sandy. Commissioner Griffith, I beg your pardon.
Anyone else who did not register would like to speak this evening before I close? Seeing none, close the public comment and hearing item for ZMC 25008. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion for the Planning and Zoning Commission to recommend a positive approval to the Town Council for zoning map change 25-008.
I have a second.
Madam Chair, I'm sorry, that's because she used to be the Madam Chair. Chairman and Commission members, does that include the condition for the conditional use permit?
It does now. I'll restate my approval that the Planning and Zoning Commission forward a positive recommendation of zoning map change 25-008 along with the conditional use permit approval to Town Council.
I'll make a second, but with a comment. Remember, we're advisory. This is a public process. It is going to go on. You have a right as a community to voice your concerns at another level. And so with that comment, I would make a second to that motion.
Clerk, could you call the vote?
Commissioner Evans?
Yes.
Vice Chair Huot?
Yes.
Commissioner Grassi?
No.
Chair Erb?
No.
Commissioner Griffiths?
Aye.
Motion passes 3-2.
Thank you. Moving on to the next topic on the agenda, any action items? I do not have any listed. Seeing none, I have a motion for adjournment.
A motion to adjourn.
I second, so adjourned.